Hey, today is day 304. We're reading Matthew 19 and Mark 10. The first half of Mark 10 is the same as Matthew 19, give or take a few minor pieces. First is a discussion about divorce. Jesus says that what God has joined together, let no man separate. And when he's questioned about this, he said, that's what's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to just divorce. The law says that has these allowances for divorce because God knows you're not going to follow up with what the ideal was. And so he gave you some ways to deal with when you fall short. In Matthew, he goes in even deeper when the disciples are like, who could possibly live up to this? He's like, look at eunuchs, like somebody who's physically removed from the possibility of being in a marriage, consummating that marriage and having children. Whether they were born that way, somebody else made them that way, which is pretty common in these days. You know, most servants of noble or royal women would be castrated so that they were no threat to her husband, the king. You know, they were no threat to become engaged with the woman. Or some of them just chose to live a celibate lifestyle. And whichever way that happened, born that way, made that way by somebody else's action or their own choice, either way, still the call is to follow God. That's where he's going with that for the glory of the kingdom, seek first his righteousness. You know, he says that in Matthew 6. And that's kind of the theme that we see through. Little children, oh, you guys are paying, don't let them come through. And Jesus is like, whoa, don't stop them. Let them come. The rich young man comes to him, hey, I've done all the right things. What else do I need? Well, sell everything you have and come follow me. And he goes away sad. The implication is that he doesn't get in because they go, if he can't make it in, who can possibly be saved? That's the question the disciples ask. That question seems to imply that this guy is not saved. I've heard it taught by some that, you know, he goes away sad, but then he comes back. And of course he's going to follow Jesus because anyone who encountered Jesus followed him, except for all of the Pharisees and crowds that crucified him. But you know, we have nothing that tells us that this guy was saved. He goes away sad because all of his good deeds, all of his following of the law doesn't get him in. When it's put to him that now is the time to take all that you have acquired in this world and give it to the Lord for the purposes of the Lord and come follow me, that there's something better than all the stuff you've gained in this world. That's when he goes away sad. That's too much to ask of him. Hey, I've done all the right things. I'm a good person, but will you truly follow Jesus? Will you put him first? Will you put Yahweh above all of that? Like, I mean, yeah, as long as he doesn't ask me to give stuff up, but that's the whole idea of like, take up your cross and follow me. Will you give up everything, even your life, to follow Jesus? And so that's why Jesus says it's easier for someone to put a camel through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich person to enter the kingdom. Like, that's literally about a needle, the eye of a needle, and a camel. Like, that's impossible. That's why he says with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Because they're like, what kind of nonsense is that? Who could put a camel through the eye of a needle? Like, that doesn't even make sense. And he's like, right. And if you're going to go try and go in burdened with all this stuff, this hook in your heart for all this wealth, and that's going to keep you from just being all in with Jesus, then you can't do it. There's a crazy metaphor or story out there that supposedly there was some like gate called the eye of the needle, and like you had to unstrap your camel, like take off all the camel's stuff that it would be laden with, and then the camel could go through on its knees, and then you could bring the stuff back through. That is ridiculous. It's not historical. And I'm sorry if you've ever heard that because someone made it up and then it sounded cool and it kept going. But no, that's something that you could do with man. That's not impossible. It's just inconvenient. And that's not what Jesus was talking about. He said, literally, you can't take a giant camel, you know, has humps and carries gear and spits at you and all that big, huge desert animal to go through the eye of a needle, a sewing needle. That's literally what he meant. It's impossible, like not even close, not even kind of something you can do. But with God, this is possible. The last shall be first, the first shall be last. That's what he's trying to make this point. Like it doesn't make sense the way you do it. You can't do it on your own. This is something that no matter what you do, the rich young man has followed the law, has done all the right things. He's checked every box. You checking off boxes will not get you in. And so in Mark, we keep going and we have Jesus predicting his death. Again, the disciples, like, how did they not know? He's like, I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to be beaten. I'm going to be handed over to Gentiles. They're going to beat me more. They're going to flog and kill me. 3 days later, I'm going to rise. Like, how do you not get that? James and John are like, we want to sit on your right hand and left hand when you're in your kingdom. And he's like, you don't even understand what you're asking. Can you be baptized with the baptism I'm going to get? Can you go through what I'm going to get? Because he's being baptized, cross, blood, grave. He's going to be pulled back up out of the grave. We identify with Christ in our baptism with his death and resurrection, but he took all of that so that we don't have to. You just want to rule. You're asking for the wrong things. And then he heals a blind man named Bartimaeus. And this is so cool because so many times Jesus like does a bunch of stuff to heal somebody. And this one, he just goes, hey, what do you want? He's like, Lord, I want to see. He's like, all right, go. Your faith has healed you. And immediately the guy can see and he's like, sweet. And he just starts following them. He's just one of the disciples now. He's just in. Man, everything we do in this world doesn't count if we don't follow Jesus. And that's what really speaks to me today. You can try everything. You can do whatever you want. You can try to find all the loopholes and obey the law or use the law to your advantage or whatever. And you can do good things and try to be a good person. And none of it counts if you're not following Christ. Follow him. And there are people like this rich young man who are wealthy, who are having earthly success, who are seemingly doing all the right things, and they will not enter the kingdom because they would rather have all that wealth and success than sacrifice it all to follow Jesus. It's not that rich people can't get in, but they can't hang on to their stuff over him. Man, I'd love to hear what speaks to you. I'd love to hear how God is speaking to your heart in his word today, and any questions or comments you have. So let's talk about that. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Be rad for Jesus.